National parks. There are 58 of these magnificent expositions of the most quintessential renderings of nature. Some of the most ethereal and undeniably stunning landscapes are seen in these places, and only these places. This is the story of not only the history of national parks, but how they have impacted our nation, our states, and our communities within. Come along on a discovery, the discovery of national parks.
Thousands of people flock to these great outdoor playgrounds of America, and these are wonderlands of nature known as national parks. People come here for the sole reason to take in the grandeur and brilliance of these landscapes. These parks also provide some of the last suitable habitat for a number of endemic species. They're also scenic and historically important areas protected by the federal government. And the only reason for the protection is for the enjoyment of the public and preservation of the land.
Probably the most well-known national park in the United States is Yellowstone National Park. This is the first federally protected park ever founded, and in the Act of March 1st, 1872, it essentially set apart land near the headwaters of Yellowstone River. Congress established this national park as a public park for the enjoyment and benefit of the people. In the years following the establishment of Yellowstone National Park, the United States government authorized dedication of land to the national parks. And on August 25th, 1916, President Woodrow Wilson decided to create the National Park Service. Spooky.
One of the most enduring myths about Yellowstone National Park involves its conception. The myth tells a story of explorers discussing their findings over a fire, only to realize its true beauty. The abundant wildlife and the pristine rivers overshadowed by the towering cliffs of the Madison Plateau. This beauty had to be preserved, and thus Yellowstone National Park was materialized.
Though this story is a myth, those explorers were real, and their crowning achievement was saving this land from private development. This sparked the nation's first interest in preserving the environment for future generations to enjoy. You see, Yellowstone was a dream that not only instituted the idea of land preservation, but laid down the foundation for a movement to create more of these national parks, with the only purpose of their existence being that they are pristine examples of North American landscape, which should be protected and preserved. Yellowstone set a precedent for future parks. In late 1871, a bill was passed that encouraged scenic areas to become established as new national parks.
Since the formation of Yellowstone, the number of parks in America has grown to 58, with no other state having more than California.
Of the many parks here in California, some of the most notable include Sequoia, Kings Canyon, and Redwood National Park. However, there is simply nothing to compete with the exhilarating grandeur of Yosemite. It opens one's eyes to the awe-inspiring beauty of nature, astounding its visitors with a surreal sense of peace and wonder. The park simply invokes emotions within.
Yosemite is greatly the works of a naturalist named John Muir. He is well known for his early day advocacy towards environmentalism and conservation of wild lands, materialized through his foundation of the Sierra Club, which remains an active conservation organization today. Known as the father of national parks, Muir's enthusiasm towards conservation inspired a great many political leaders in the U.S. to take action towards conservation through his many exposés. These ranged anywhere from his tirelessly wild adventures in the Sierra Nevadas to his reclusive but no less venturesome stay in his riverside cabin in Yosemite. In one of his pieces, he writes, "He was overwhelmed by the landscape, scrambling down steep cliff faces to get a closer look at the waterfalls, whooping and howling at the vistas, jumping tirelessly from flower to flower." Ralph Waldo Emerson called Muir a new kind of Thoreau, who gazed at sequoias of the Sierra instead of the scrub oaks of Concord. President Johnson, greatly inspired by Muir's devotion to preservation, proposed a bill in 1890 to create Yosemite National Park. John Muir had greatly influenced the American mindset towards that of Western forest preservation. Johnson was not the only president inspired by Muir. He also greatly influenced Teddy Roosevelt during his presidency.
After camping in Yosemite for a few days with Muir, Roosevelt returned to the White House determined to conserve the nation's natural lands. He began by establishing the U.S. Forest Service and creating national monuments, parks, and reserves, overall protecting 230 million acres of land.
John Muir has had a huge impact on our country today by inspiring Americans to preserve our lands, not only for their beauty, but for their diverse wildlife and ecosystems.
Yosemite National Park reveals an ideal image of what makes a national park the unbelievably spectacular place it is. People venture here from all over the world to view the endless granite cliffs of El Capitan and Half Dome. In conjunction with the giant sequoia trees and towering waterfalls, the immense scale and vibrancy of these great outdoors is unseen anywhere else in the world.
Not everyone has the chance to venture across the nation to Yosemite. However, that doesn't degrade the value of other national parks, which are also essential to shaping the communities around them.
But I go to the parks in general just because the outdoors, you meet great friendly people. So it's good for your mind, your soul, and it's good to get outdoors physically too. Kind of rejuvenates you. So I really can't think of a downside.
欣赏这个大自然景象，心旷神怡，对人的心态，是不是？然后去了解美国的环境如何怎么去保管的、保养的这个自然生态，对大家维护地球都有帮助，是这样。
And if you live in an urban area, it helps balance your life because you realize there's more to this state and this world than just concrete and high rises.
Ja, der ganze Stress und der viele Verkehr ist einfach nicht so spürbar in der Natur.
就是探讨自然咯，美国大自然的环境挺好的，所以我都喜欢带这些亲戚朋友到大自然，美国的大自然。
Und im Nationalpark eine geschützte Zone ist, wo die Natur eben erhalten bleibt und nicht so, ja auch nicht so viele Leute drin sind, dass es so überlaufen ist.
I told my wife, I said, hey, you know, hon, I got to get out of town. I'm ready to get in nature. And she said, fine, have at it. I picked up my bag and I was gone in less than an hour.
Was auch ein sehr großer Unterschied ist zu den privaten Campingplätzen, dass man hier viel mehr Platz hat und viel privater ist als auf den kommerziell betriebenen.
3次咯，呀，3次了，也还是很喜欢这个自然的环境。
Die Stille, die Ruhe, Einsamkeit.
In fact, I'm surprised more people don't do it, actually. Eating marshmallows and hot dogs here before 7 o'clock. So that's why I like the outdoors. I told you I was going to ramble.
Not every park may have the towering walls of El Capitan, but that doesn't mean each park doesn't have something specific to itself that's beautiful in its own right.
National parks such as Yellowstone and Yosemite shape our lives and our nation simply by being there. It's not about how they've drastically changed the politics of our nation. It's simply about the basis behind parks such as these. There's nowhere else on this planet where these places exist, and the reason they exist here is for the enjoyment of the people, and that it does. People come here year after year for the sole reason to gaze and become stricken by the hues of the granite walls to the vibrant saturation of the leaves. Generations have discovered what national parks truly entail, and the only way to do this is to visit one of these parks. So pack your bags and discover your own paths.